Hey guys, it's Peggy. I'm back with another design for you guys. This is a really cool project to make coasters. I'm going to make two little coasters today because there's a couple of slightly different ways that you can make it. These also, if you like them, you can scale up and up and up, or anything you want to make a reading mat, something bigger, a place setting, anything that you want. We're going to get started. This is going to be fairly simple. I'm not going to do a lot in terms of measurements because this is kind of scalable to what you need. The one that I'm doing right now is going to finish, let's take a look and see what it's going to finish at. It's going to finish at around 6 by 6. So, and I'm doing two. They're going to finish it at the same size. Pick a round item in your collection, a bowl, a bowl, a cup, a whatever, as long as it's round. Set it down in the middle of your square. What I would recommend is these are going to finish at about 6 by 6. I would start with a piece of fabric that's about 7 by 7, 8 by 8. That way, if you're off a little bit, then you can trim it around and get it where you want it. That way, you don't have to be so perfect all the time. There's ways to center this. You can also just take your fabric, get a little crease line in there, do it again, get a little crease line in, and you have something to center on. It's hard to describe, and I didn't exactly pick the best fabrics for that today. So I'm just eyeballing everything. What we're going to do to get this started is we're going to start with two pieces of fabric, pretty sides together. They do not have to be identical in any way. I just happen to choose them that way because that's just what I want to do today. Put your round object and just make sure that whatever object you have, like I'm doing coasters. So I picked something that's going to be the right size that a coffee mug is going to just sit nicely into the center. What we're going to do is make a circle. I think we can all do that. Just press down nice and firmly. Take your time making your line. You can use a pencil. You can use a chalk. This is a heat erase pen, so it comes off really easily. So I don't know if you can see it on this one. I've already marked this one. So you just see the little circle there. I'm going to turn the machine and hope you guys aren't going to get any vertigo. And we're going to get started. First step is we sew right away. So you just put your piece in here. Make sure your needle is lined up exactly on that line that you want to that you just made. This is going to seem. I'm not going to backstitch. You technically should be backstitching here, but if I know that my stitch is going to make a complete something and it's going to meet itself, then I tend to only backstitch at the very end, because otherwise you're going to go back, forward, come around, and then go back, forward, and you'll have 4 layers of thread in the one spot. And I just am not a big fan of how that looks or feels. So just take your time. This is going to look really weird. Now let me bring this in a bit. This is going to feel very counterintuitive because normally you're sewing in a straight line, and this is, you're going to be going around that edge. So you just want to take your time and double check. The advice I gave you in the last video was to back up. The last video I said, oh, sit back here and just let everything zoom into your machine. This is the opposite, where you want to get in closer. The more you do these, the faster you can do them. But the reality is that you don't have to do anything fancy here. Just try and make sure your needle hits on or close to the line that you just made. So I just went right over. I went like, I think I went 4 or 5 stitches past where I started my line. I don't need to go crazy on the back stitching, so I just backed it up by 2 stitches, and it's done. This one's done. We're going to set it aside. We're going to do the other one. Okay, that's done. Now, mind the vertigo. We're going to go back over here again. Oh, there we go. Now, I got that one done. This one's done, and we're over here. So we're going to come in. And again, you guys have agreed you're going to ignore the big frickin' messes in the background. So we just cut off our extra thread just to keep things neat and tidy as we go. Check the back, get that one. Check the back, get that one. Don't worry if something like, right there, that got a little bit off. That's a little, don't worry, that happens. That happens. There's not much you can do about it. I mean, there's lots you can do about it, but there's no point in crying about it. You're going to take a pair of scissors. You're going to pinch this up. You're going to cut a hole going all the way through. Now, this is a part where you have to be really careful. Let's hope I do this. So you're going to cut straight up into the edge, straight up to the edge. You're going to get close. I'm not sure if the camera's seeing this very well. You're going to go up close to this edge, and you're just going to cut along a quarter inch, probably a little bit less. And you're just going to cut carefully, slowly, taking your time. You're not in a rush. Going to go all the way around. I will say that if you start with don't decide that you have to go around. Just go snip, snip, zip, snip. Take your time, go slow. You can use smaller scissors if that feels easier and more in control for you. And just go all the way around. So far, so good. We're moving along nicely. Now, you're going to have to decide which piece of this you want to be seen. I'm not sure how to describe this. I should have used one with 2 different colors, but okay, that one's done. That one's done. I'm just going to keep using the little scissors. So fold it in half. Fold it thin enough so you can get, that's not going to, that little pair is not going to go all the way through it. Get your hole started. Get your scissors in there, get up to the edge. So don't forget, you're staying inside the stitching. You're staying just inside the stitching and you're cutting it from the inside. If you do it the other way around, you'll have stuff you can't use. Go all the way around. Do. This is going to take a little bit longer because I'm doing 2 of these at once and I'm doing two different types at the same time. So just remember that if you're only doing one, you can start off and do a stack of 10 if that's what you want to do. And don't forget, if you look on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little gear icon. If you click on the gear icon, you can speed me up or you can slow me down. That can be really helpful if you're doing this is a follow along. So if following along at my speed isn't working for you or you need to redo something or whatever, never be afraid to slow it down or do whatever you want to do. Now, next step. This is blue on blue. This is also a different shade of blue on a different shade of blue. What we're going to do is we're going to do this one of 2 ways. If you don't want the extra bulk, then you can come along and trim this. You will need to decide what is going to be your top. So your top is going to be, well, one of these. Whichever one's going to be your bottom, you can come back in and get rid of some of your bulk by just going around loosely and making sure not to cut the bottom. Just get a pair of scissors that'll go in between. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's not going to matter when you're done. Come on, keep going. Just take your time. Now, I'm feeling as I go underneath to make sure, because every now and again that bottom could shift. So take your time. Make sure that your bottom piece isn't shifting and ends up getting snipped or cut, or then you have to start all over again. So I'm not going to bother trimming this one because I don't really care. So this is really simple. You're going to go all the way. You're going to go from the back, bring this all the way back, finger press it down. Finger press it down, get it started. This is going to be tedious. This is going to take a few minutes. I actually like to start from the top and just finger press it all the way in. Just take those 2 seams and open them up a little tiny bit. Go to the next section, open them up, and just go all the way around. I told you, I've mentioned finger pressing a few times, so you're not like going crazy. You're just taking your finger, giving a little press. That's it, little finger press. Little fingerprints. You're just doing a little finger press all the way around. This isn't okay. Everybody has their own way of doing this type of thing. Like, so for some people it might be better. For some of you it might be better just to push it all the way through and do that all as one step. Now, This is where you have to agree not to notice the mess. I got a bunch of scrap stuck in the corner because we're going to be using that for part of this. Get some pins out of the way, get some junk out of the way. See what I have to put up with? Nope, that's not going to do it. Okay, I'm going to turn this around. This is actually a, I use this whenever I'm working on smaller projects. I use this. It is just a, it's a mat, it's a cutting mat on one side, but this is an ironing mat, which we will need to deal with in just a second. And when I'm working on small projects, I have this little guy. I can list all of this. I probably will link all of this below, so that if any of this looks like stuff you might be interested in. Anyway, just take your time. Whatever works for you. Sometimes it works better for me just to take my time, because I always get, you start getting ham-handed and a little frustrated, and then you start just yanking and hauling at stuff and not giving it the patience it deserves. So what you're going to do is you're going to come all the way out here. I know you guys are watching me struggle, going, why am I doing this again? Okay, you'll see in a minute. Oh, you'll see. It'll be beautiful. It'll be awesome. When you're done, I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna run the other one over. I'm gonna do these on the big iron because it will be easier. I didn't show you guys a step. It's a pain in the butt to do your turn. No two ways about that. Take your time, relax. It will be a lot easier if you come in here. I'm gonna have to show you on the bad one. If you come in here and you just trim ever so slightly, little tiny nips into there. Don't cut the thread. Take your time. Use a pair of sharp scissors. Just trim like that. If for some reason you've got, if you've got smaller scissors and it's easier for you, do that. If you've got scissors that, every now and again you get a pair of scissors that just doesn't want to cut at the tip, just come all the way back here and just take your time. Once you get those little nips all the way around, maybe I'll see them. I'm gonna try it on this one. I got part way into the other one. I'm like, what step did I miss? Like, this shouldn't be doing that. What the heck's going on? Now, I'll bring the other one back in a second and show it to you. And you'll see that it's not horrible, but it could have been better. Now, when it's done, nobody's going to notice, nobody's going to care, and it's a coaster. So it's not going to matter. It really isn't going to matter. So let's see. This one I decided I wasn't going to trim. Let's see if it's easier to do. Yeah, it looks like it's already a little bit easier. I'm still going to take it over there on the big iron though. I don't use the little iron much. I only use it for certain types of projects. A little bit of finger pressing. As we go, just to get it in place. I'm not worrying about whether it stays. I'm just trying to get once around, just to get it used to the idea that I'm going to flip it. I just take this, flip it upside down, and just a little bit at a time. And then let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when we just shove all that stuff through. Do. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And again, I chose the exact same color of fabric for the front or the back, so it doesn't matter. But if you have one that's chosen for your front, then just make sure that's that's the side you're paying attention to when you go around. So that you're, this one's going a lot easier than the last one goes. God, guys, I skipped a step on you. So yeah, I'm still going to turn this off and head back over to the iron. Big irons are just take your time. Don't burn yourself. Small irons, it's all this. An iron is an iron, so it's the exact same thing. Yeah, this one's going a lot better because I just remembered that one little step that I skipped. Hope you guys didn't click away in disgust when you realized I missed the step. Okay, see, look at that. That one went better. So yeah, do the little snippy snip, guys. Sorry for screwing that up. I'm still going to give it a shot of steam, and I'm going to get everything else ready, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. Let's dig and see what we got going on here. Okay, I've got my first square here. I've got my second square here. We're going to leave them there for a second. Now, this one, this is where I remind you that I have a ton of scrap, that my life revolves around finding ways to use up my scrap. Don't look. You're not supposed to see that one yet. That one's special. Don't look at that. Okay. Oh, wait. Yeah, don't look at that. Don't look at that. Don't peek. Okay, so this is really easy. We have the interfacing. I already said that I want this to be 6 inches by 6 inches, so I am going to measure 6 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, when you're measuring things like this, if I try to line up exactly on that edge, I may end up with something that's wavy, and not realize it. Make the extra cut. Go 6 inches here. Actually, I should have went the other way. Okay, so 6 inches here. I should have went the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I could count to 6, my life would be so much better. I should have counted this way first, because I should have had an almost 6 inch, so I could be almost. Don't be afraid of having a little bit of extra cutoffs in favor of a more accurate cut. This is scrap. This is leftover stuff that I had from another project. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm cutting 6. That's already over the line. So I'm starting off with one nice straight line. This is going to go back over there. Ignore that. It just disappeared into the wilderness. It's okay. It's fine. So I am going to, now I'm going to lay this down. Now that I know I've got a straight line, I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to go there. Then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you can start lining it up using the lines that are on your grids. So these are all, just stick with the measurements. And if you want a bigger one, cut bigger. If you want a smaller one, cut smaller. When you are cutting your batting, just don't forget that batting is really easy to stretch. It's really easy to move out of shape. So just take your time with it. Go carefully. Take your time, be careful. Yeah, see, this one already looks like it wants to not quite be right, and that's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's right there. Take that off. I mean, you don't want massive amounts of waste cutting off of each piece, but having a little bit of waste is not. There's all, sewing comes with waste. Now, I already know I cut that one nice and level with that. So I bring this back, I lay it out. It's just a little bit past this line. It's a little bit over that line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's fine. It doesn't need to be exact. Actually, I got to get all the, when you cut batting, it does leave a lot of mess behind. There's just no way around it. Now I can come back and cut along this first line. I actually didn't need to be, okay, if you're going to work with a binding, you don't need to be this exact, but I like self-binding, so I try to really avoid the binding. So that's why I try to get this done this way first. I'm going to have to get over myself and show you guys how to do binding one day so that you guys actually have a choice, because I'm only showing you, well, you guys have a choice, but I'm only showing you one choice. Okay, so this is, that goes there, that goes on this one. So this is really simple. Now, you're going to take this, you're going to take this. Look at that. Do we see what's starting to happen here? Now, for this, you're going to want to line it up. And I'm just leaving it as is. Remember I don't know if I mentioned I had a couple of tiny creases because I didn't do the snippy thing all the way around. I'm leaving them. I'm leaving them exactly where I found them. Because I just want to show you that nobody's going to care. So we're going to go like this. Okay, so this is still in progress. This is still on the go here. We're going to finish this one first, just to keep things separate. So I'm going to come in here carefully with a pin, because you don't want anything to shift. You cannot let this shift. So don't be afraid to use a lot of pins. I hate using pins, and I'm going to use a lot of pins. because of the way I'm doing this, this is just a single piece that's going onto a single piece, okay? That's totally fine. So this one here is actually almost done. Where's my other piece? That's my other piece. And I want this to be what everybody sees, so I'm actually going to be backing it in this. So you've got a couple of choices right now. You can put the batting on now, which I should have done first. Yep, I should have done it first. And that's okay, because a lot of people want to center this first and then put their backing and stuff on, which is totally fine. And then you just take out one pin at a time. There's going to be times when this is actually really important to know this. For this to be an effective coaster, this bottom piece can't have a lot of stitching through it. So I'm going through the batting right now, but that's it. So I don't need to take out every single pin if I don't want to. And I'm still going to do the same thing where I'm going to take my pin out, I'm going to put it through everything and then put it back in again. The batting usually doesn't move around that much, but you also want your coaster to stay more or less centered, which I feel it's centered well enough for what I want. Pull it out, put it back in. There's a lot of really good reasons why you want to put your fabric on first and then do this, because you want to make sure when you're working with a small piece like this, that you want to stay centered to a certain degree. You want to make sure that that's on properly. And this, you're only moving one pin at a time, so nothing's going to jump out and run away on you. There you go. There you go. There you go. Okay. When we put this on, when we sewed these first two pieces of the blue together, we stuck right on the line. Just imagine that this is the line. Stay just on the inside of it. Take your time if you must. Go, oh, I want that in a little. If you can bring your needle down without touching the fabric, and make little adjustments. Okay, there we go. That's where I want it. Okay, again, I'm not going to backstitch because I'm doing a straight stitch. I'm coming all the way around. So I'm not going to backstitch here to avoid extra bulk of thread. And then we will make sure that we catch it properly and backstitch at the very end. Go around. We're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it. You technically are taking out your needle, your pins at every time you meet one. Depending on how much you trust yourself, you can just go over the edge. So the first thing I do is to go over the wrong edge. Here we go. Take your time. And again, I picked a bad combination. This is probably really hard for you guys to see, but if this was, let's imagine that this was a bright red and this was a darker color, a contrasting color, you'd have no problem spotting that line. And just pay attention to where your needle's coming down. Pay attention to where everything's lining up. Take your time. I don't know if you guys are seeing just how slowly I'm stitching here. It's okay. It's okay to go super slow. And I've just met my previous thread. I'm being really careful and watching to make sure I go exactly, I'm making sure I get 1 or 2 stitches exactly over where the previous one started. And that's, whoa, it's not very good. Lighting is what that is. Let's get the vertigo going and get the camera turned again. There we go. Okay. And this is done. Now, if you want, did I turn this off? Yes, I did. I need to turn it back on. If you want, you can give it a little iron just to smooth things out a bit. This is your backing. I'm again doing, you can do these a couple of different ways. You can find a bigger circle and make it round. You can angle off your corners. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it backwards. I'm going to take a quick measurement, and I can already tell this is slightly off center. Oh no, this is about right. Okay. So I'm not going to agonize over perfection. I'm just making this for myself. I'm going to trim this. Everything here is going to trim back to the interfacing that I've already done. I mean the interfacing, to the batting that I've already done. Everything's going to go like that. This is, that's the batting. That's just the selvage of the other fabric that I did. Oh, I'm going to come back in on this just the tiniest of bits because it's a little off on the other side. I want them to look kind of even. I'm going to learn how to use my cutter. Is this one just off a bit? That one is just off a bit, so I'm going to do that as well. So it's going to come out a little tinier than I intended. Okay, and that's that. That's this piece here. Now, if I want this to be curved edges, then I would just, I'm not going to curve the edges because I don't care. If you want to curve the edges, just bring it back and mark it and cut. I prefer to mark it and cut it with scissors, but I'm going to leave this square because I don't care. I'm going to do this. Now this is again the self-bind. I found out it's actually called self-binding. It's not called no binding. I'm going to do the same self-binding technique that I've been doing for almost everything. And because this is so small, I'm going to pin it down right now, all the way through everything this time. And again, if you are having issues with hand-eye coordination, just put your pin in first and lift the whole works up onto the pin. Okay, this is going to be the exact same color. Oh, this is a slightly different color. Do we care? I don't think we care. I don't care. This is a very slightly different color. I don't care. I don't care. So I'm going to cut 1 inch. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to try and save that little piece across the top. So I'm going to go like that, 1 inch. 1 inch. No, all the way across. You stop shifting. Ah, I saved that piece. Okay, this is 1 inch. Ooh, I got it almost exactly right too. Only got the tiniest bit to come off. 1 inch. Now, again, if you're not confident, do 1.5 inches, do 2 inches, do 3 inches, do 6 inches. It's your project. So, fold it in half, fold it up, fold it up, fold it up, fold it up. I should be using clips, but I'm only going to throw in 1 clip because I don't need, these are kind of tiny and they'll be easy to handle. So, back to the machine. You guys seen this mess? Look at that. Look at this mess. Look at all this junk behind me. It's like, this is what happens when you sew for 5 or 6 hours a day, every day. Which I don't mind doing, but it's like, I feel like I have to apologize for the mess every time. Okay, I'm still using the same straight stitch. This is, by the way, just a walking foot. It just makes life a little easier for me. The foot doesn't matter as long as you feel like you're getting a nice straight stitch. And we're just going to go straight down. I've shown you how to do this a couple times on other stuff. I'm going to take the clip out. Since this is such a tiny project, I should probably talk a little slower, but anyway. Since this is such a tiny project, I can just clip it as I go. But I'm going to bevel my edges. I'm going to try beveling my edges and see what happens. All the way to the end. Because if you don't, okay, all the way to the end, cut your thread. All the way to the end, because if you don't, when you're trying to move this stuff, when you're trying to move this piece around, that's just going to try to unfold on you. It's going to be a bloody mess. Okay, beveling is, take that and make an angle. Okay, when you're folding it up, you go like that. And then you fold it forward. You're doing the exact same thing, only first you're doing that. So it's a little bit fiddly, nothing wrong with that. Bring it up, bring it forward, and then you have a nice little triangle edge right there. I am going to just start my stitch here. Now, because this is visible, this is now on the top, you do have to backstitch a little bit. You don't have to backstitch like crazy if you don't want to. But I didn't backstitch this one because I know that it's going to get folded down and stay invisible. I have to backstitch that one because you don't want that. Now that it's at the top and it's the finishing stitch, you don't want I think it's called the finishing stitch. You don't want anybody to see it. Okay. I can take the pin out because I'm holding it with my finger. I can take the pin out and everything's where it's supposed to be anyway. Okay, all the way to the end. Cut it. I didn't backstitch because I don't need to, because that's getting folded down. Again, turn it in, like a nice little triangle, turn it in. Now fold it in half. Now fold it up. Notice how I'm ignoring this down here? I'm just ignoring that, because then I can just grab it, give it a quick little turn. It doesn't have to be perfect because I can just move it as I go. Now, obviously, if it's a bigger piece, you want to do this properly and pin them and do all the things. But because it's such a small piece, everything is just going to go. It's a lot easier to handle. I mean, I'm holding down 4 of the 6 inches just with my hand and the end of my thumb here. Like it's a lot easier to keep things where you want them. So now I'm going to get that under the machine. I got a knee lift, so I get lucky, but get that under the machine. And again, pin it if you have to use all the hand controls. I'm lucky and I have a knee lift, which means that I can just hang on to the 2 pieces, slide it in. You should be once you get this done, you should throw a clip on until just before you're ready to slide it under. Pay attention to where your corner is. Do at least. You don't have to go crazy with the back stitch. And some people also like to go right out into that corner. This is just a mug rug, so I don't need to. I'm just putting a coffee cup on it. Throw it in the laundry when I get it dirty, and then whatever. So I don't have to agonize. Okay, now this one you have 2 sides. Oh, there's a little bit of a excess. This one you have both sides, so this one I will be pinning. Okay, I'm going to do this side first. This side I will be clipping because I have this end as well, and they are. Bring that down, put a little clip on that end. Because I need it to not move while I get you have to get the other one done before you start. When the last beveled edge has to be done before you start, because it won't just pop into position like a regular one will. Okay, get that down there. I got a little extra thread that's not supposed to be there. There we go. Pop that over, pop that under. Now, I showed you in one of my other videos, you can just fold these straight up. I just thought I'd go with the beveled edge just because I can and I want to feel special. So that's fine. Okay, now I'm going to do that one. I'm going to show you another valuable sewing tool in a second too. Okay, get that in there, get that down. Now, you're going to see that I'm not starting all the way back on the edge because I'm starting at that corner where it meets. So, got the edge, bring it back a couple. Okay, bring it to the edge. Okay. Time to see a valuable sewing tool in action. This has to come off because I can't let that's not even going to pretend to go under the, that's not even going to pretend to fit under that foot. Remember I mentioned tweezers. This is, have you guys been taking notes? Hold it with a pair of tweezers and it's not going to move. Okay. And that is, let's just find those loose threads now. Oops, that one's going to be one on the back. That one's going to be on the front. That one's going to be on the front. I don't know why I'm telling you. It's every sewing machine has its own little things. Little bits of stuff left over. You ever get your thread looped up the tiniest bit? You're sewing and you go back to trim your threads and you notice that this under the bobbin side is a little bit looped up. If you have okay, these are pointy, but they're not. These are pointy, but they flatten out just enough that I'm not going to stab myself. So I just take the point of the scissors, I get it up there. I don't freak out about getting every last bit up there and then trim. All this is that the bobbin thread has just been caught up a little funny. And so you just get rid of it. You're not actually cutting a stitch. When you see that, when you see that, you're not actually cutting a stitch. It's just the way your bobbin goes. So, way over there, way over there. Gonna move on to that second one now. I've still got a second one to do. This one is a little different. This one's not horrible. It's not difficult. It's not anything. But this one, I have a particular way that I like to do this one, because what I'm going to do with this one is going to use up a bunch of scrap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and I'm not even really going to try too hard. I'm just going to cut that. Now, different people do this differently. I'm just going to struggle with this. Oh my. Okay, there we go. Different people do this differently, but one thing that you can do, what a lot of people like to do is I'd like to take this, which I'm going to do it on, oh, I guess I'm not going to do it on that one. Yes, I am. Okay, what you do is you get rid of your batting for a second. What you do with this, I like to have the second piece here. I like to have the second piece here because I'll explain, you'll see for yourself in a minute, but as you're sewing, you're going to be sewing your fabric directly onto the batting. And as you run your batting through the machine like 40 times, you're going to get a crap ton of dust and garbage into your machine that you're just not going to want there. I find that this protects the machine a little bit. So what you do at this point is you'll kind of sort of, and again, this is why I said I probably shouldn't have bothered. I probably should not have bothered lining this up in advance because I really didn't need to. I really didn't need to. I should have started with a slightly bigger piece and then just trimmed it to size afterwards, which I can still do. I was just thinking I was getting ahead of the game. So what you do, I'm going to use this. This is also an erasable marker. Does this actually have a name? Yeah, it's a Choco Ace pen. This lets you come in here. It doesn't need to be perfect. It does not need to be perfect at all. Okay, this lets you come in here. This sets aside for a minute. I just made this nice and dark so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. If I can put this away without wrecking it. Okay, there we go. I just want this to be nice and dark. This is also a erasable pen. It air dries. This one generally speaking, this air dries and disappears over time. But if you have one of the brands that doesn't, you just hit it with an iron and it's gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that guy over there, and I'm going to pick some scrap. Any piece of scrap that you use has to be at least an inch wide. Well, okay, you're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side. So when you're doing your 1/4 inch seam allowance, the first thing you're going to find is if your fabric is less than 1/2 inch, you'll literally have nothing left when you're done. So we are going to do this. This is a really cool thing that you can do. You start with, I'm going to turn the camera again, and we're going to do it over here on the machine. I'm going to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it, and I'm going to use slightly bigger. I'm already planning on this to have slightly bigger fabrics in the first place, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so your first piece of fabric just sits here. You can have it off to the side, you can have it in the center, you can have it wherever you want. Your next piece of fabric, just decide what you want. This is a super long piece of fabric, so I'm just going to trim it and shorten it a bit. You're going to take your next, now this, okay, I'm just doing random fabric. That's probably the first thing I should tell you. I shouldn't be skipping that part. I'm just doing random fabric. I just want this to be a nice scrappy thing. I'm not even going to trim this stuff. If something's a little bit off center and going off at an angle, I'm going to leave it. So, in order to do these the easiest way possible, you lay your first piece down. Lay your next piece over top on one side and do a 1/4 inch from, make sure that your 1/4 inch covers at least that circle, the circle that you drew. So keep an eye on where that circle is. I like to go a bit above it just because I can. Straight line. That's it. Straight line. Now, if you're feeling especially not confident, you can just finger press it out. If you're feeling not confident, you can get it off to the side, which I'm gonna do that for this first one, just to make sure I get a good start. Goodbye. Oh, this one is not heat erasable because I just put my iron on it and nothing happened. Okay, and then you take your next piece. I'm gonna take that piece. I don't want it to be that wide, so I'm gonna go like that. I'm not even measuring, guys. I am just mashing at things. My next piece is going to go. Now, don't forget, this side over here hasn't been sewn down yet. We're fine with that. We'll fix that in a minute. Slide everything back under. Again, just I don't know if you guys are. I mean, I'm certainly noticing this, and anybody with experience is going to notice that. Just the sliding back and forth, because my feed dogs are up on the bottom. It would have been starting to tear this. Would have been starting to like mangle up my my batting. That's the reason why and this is just a scrap. Don't forget, this is a mug rug. The idea is for it to absorb things. Having a few extra gaps and then another layer of fabric will make it more absorbent. Get that over there. I don't care if we go over a little bit of extra bulk is not just going to make it more absorbent. This one's off to an angle and we don't care. Let's find another one. Well, let's throw a little black one in there. Oh, no, wait, I'm finishing it in black. Or am I? There it is. Yeah, I'm doing that one. Okay, there's a piece. So I'm just taking little pieces. I am just cutting them up, and I don't care what direction I go. This is all scrap. This is all my scrap pile, by the way. This is why saving scrap can be a whole lot of fun. So you put the pretty sides together. You sew your 1/4 inch seam. Like I said, you can start right at there. Some people like to start right at the lines because they'll trim off all the bulk. I don't like to trim off the bulk. I don't care about that. Go down here, follow. So whatever line this makes, the previous one we did, went in at an angle. So I just did it at an angle. And look at that, the last little bit. I'm pretty sure you guys can still see it. There's my blue line. It is now covered. I don't want there to be, I want to make sure I get a good seam here. So I'm just going to take a small piece of, there's a piece of red. I'm going to take a piece of red. I don't need it to be as long as the other pieces were. I'm just going to hack that up. Honestly, I should do the fancy thing and get 2 cameras over here one day or something, borrow Lisa's camera, because I'm not even trying to measure this stuff. And I'm going to come back just a little bit so that hopefully a little tiny bit of that red will show. Again, I'm working with scrap so that I don't have to care what happens here. Fold that one out. There we go. That one's done. I thought I saw a loose piece of a loose piece of thread, but I didn't. Okay, we're back to this piece, the one that didn't get sewn down earlier. And I do like, oh, here's a red. Here's a red to match that red. Come on, you can cut. These, I'm just cutting as I go just to kind of prove a point that you do not have to be, if you were going to use this method rather than the other method where I'm already starting with a pre-made thing, there's not a huge ton of differences. There really isn't. There's not a huge ton of differences between the overall effect. Just some differences in how you're putting these together. The other one I was pinning it all down and sewing it together. This one I'm doing, well, I mean, I can say, oh, this one I'm doing differently, but they're not all that different. The main technique is kind of similar. I don't think there's a whole lot of differences there. And we're going to get, I already know that this is pretty much going to go off the edge, so I'm just going to do that one. And again, I'm not worrying about the extra bulk of fabric because it just will make it more absorbent as a, what happened? Ooh, I touched a thing. Okay. And we go there. That's done. Okay. That's it. Now, that one's done. That one's done. I'm just going to get that over on the proper side. If you have a very limited space, these mini irons and this folds and you can put it away. These are really helpful. So I'm just giving this a zap of hot iron. That was actually, the pen that I used actually was not heat erasable, so you would have to be careful. I grabbed the wrong pen. But there's heat erasable pens. You just do that kind of marking with a heat erase and you're good to go. Make sure this little guy is turned off. Okay, that guy goes there. That guy goes there. Okay, so this is top. There it is. I just tossed it in with my junk pile. This is now a complete set. It's like that. This goes on the top. Line it up. So you're going to line that up. I did screw this one up. That's okay. Okay. I'm going to bring this ever so slightly off to the side. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to backtrack myself and say that you're probably going to be better off with about a 7 to 8 inch piece of batting on this particular side. I should have thought of that in advance, but I didn't. You're better off with a 7 to 8 inch piece of batting, just to make sure that you're not, just to make sure that when you cut it, you don't have to worry about whether or not how to keep it straight. Like I said, I haven't used this particular style before, and I haven't made a coaster in a while either. I'm making coasters because I finally need a couple coasters. So. This is going to be your backing. This is going to be your fronting. I am going to take my time, get that centered. There's my edge. There's my edge. Okay, there's that. This is strange, but it works. Just hold on to that carefully, slide everything out, and put it back on top. There we go. Now I've got the edges of my batting, and I can just do that. I'm going to bring it into about 5.5. Never agonize about whether you did something perfectly or not. I mean, okay, agonize a little. Like, I mean, if I were selling this, I would already be going, I guess I'm not selling this one. Not because there's anything wrong with it. This is fine, but the dimensions aren't. If I I wouldn't be able to sell it saying it was 6 by 6 when it's now 5.5 by 5.5. But yeah, there we go. That's perfect. Okay. But I don't mind showing you guys. I don't mind showing you guys the warts and all style of stuff because you go on YouTube, you look at these channels, and it's like, this is awesome. This stuff looks awesome, but you never see the mistake or how to overcome the mistake. See, I'm going to bring this down just even a little bit smaller because look, that one's a little narrow and that one's a little, actually, I'm going to leave these. That's a little narrow, that's a little thick, but this is just for me and I won't care. If you're doing these as a gift, then you're going to want to go, okay, this is 3/4 of an inch, so that needs to be 3/4 of an inch. So yeah, I should technically be cutting it. Oh yeah, if I do that, it's squared. It'll be ever so slightly rectangular, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm not losing a ton of time by agonizing over this for a few minutes. There we go. Now it's a little tiny bit narrower than it is tall, and look, it looks good. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now I've got these pieces together, and I'm just going to sew it. I've got this together, and I've got this. This is not attached to this yet, so I'm going to attach them. I'm going to attach them the exact same way I did it before. Did that shift up? That shifted up a little bit. Just a second. Let's just make sure this is correct. That shifted up a little bit. I don't want anything to shift, so I'm going to go straight in with my pin, pull the works up onto the pin. Now the last one, I was able to pin it from the center. This is, I can pin this one, I can pin the next one the exact same way, but this is already attached to a much bigger piece, and it's actually easier if you can start off away from the center. But you can do it any way you want. It's your project. Pull everything up onto the pin. There we go. Do that. Okay. Now, and again, if you're not sure, this is coming coming off just the tiniest bit, so I'm going to pin it. It just means that the circle is shifting. Not the end of my world. Extra pins, not so many pins. It's entirely your call. I am going to come back just as soon as I do the exact, this is the exact same thing. I'm just going to pause the camera because this is the exact same thing I did before, whereas I go right along this exact edge all the way around. I will not backstitch. You can if you want. I'm not going to backstitch. I'm going to come all the way around following this, staying just like as close as I can get to this edge without going off. If you can manage 1/8 of an inch, that's perfect. So I'm not going to backstitch. I'm going to go all the way around. Then I'm going to cover it. Then I'm going to go over where I started by 3 or 4 stitches. Then I'll do a quick little backstitch and be done. I'll be right back. I am back. Okay. So I got this sewn on all the way around. Again, you can make this round. You can round off your corners. I'm not going to bother because I'm lazy. I also, basically by the time I centered all of this up, it ended up being a little tiny bit wider than longer. So that's upside right for me. That's how it's going to look. Okay. So I've got a piece of, again, I just grabbed some scrap because these are small. Great. These are small little projects that are perfect for using up scrap. I'm going to pin it down. Just a pin in the center. I'm not going to agonize this time. I'm going to give myself 1 inch all the way around. And again, if you need more, cut more. If you're really confident and want less, cut less. Just make sure that whatever fold you're doing here is going to cover up all of the edge that you need to cover up. The last thing you want is to have this barely touching. I'm way off camera. You guys can't even see. The last thing you want is, okay, see this right here? You got a little tiny bit of the back showing through, which I'm not going to care about, right? Now, the last thing you want to do is have this in such a way so that these two are barely touching. So you need to make sure it folds over enough to comfortably fold this in, because if it's not, then eventually the fabric underneath is going to start fraying and popping out. It's not the end of the world if it does, especially if it's a project that you've used scrap for. But some of these scrap projects can end up being incredibly gorgeous and worth keeping for a very long time. Like this one, look at that. I mean, I'm gonna want this one to last for as long as possible. That looks beautiful. I just happen to have a piece of fabric that had a gorgeous design on it, so I really want this one to last. Now this one, I mean, I'm not gonna treat it, well, maybe I will treat it like crap, who knows? But if you are doing a project where you're just using scrap, then yeah, maybe you're going to be excited. Maybe you're going to go, it's okay if it falls apart right away. Okay. This one, it's okay if something happens to it because you literally used fabric that you were otherwise probably going to have to throw away. But you know, maybe you're going to go, this is really exciting and I can't wait for a reason to make another one. It's entirely up to you how that works. So again, I'm going to give you guys the vertical and get back over to the machine, and we're going to get this one put on as well, and then they're going to be done. So okay, I've got the luxury of a knee lift. So I lift this foot up, and I just use that to hold everything down while I put it in. If I wasn't doing this for you guys to show the camera, I would be off to the side here doing this on the table, but this just keeps me from having to move the camera around all over the place. So now for this one, this one I'm not going to agonize about so much, so I'm going to do the top, then the bottom. Obviously for a regular, for just a plain old mug rug, that's what these are called, by the way. For a plain old mug rug, you could have just done this whole piece, left this outside picture frame off, and just done whatever. I just thought the picture frame effect was so cool that it's like, well, I need new coasters. And that's a cool effect, so I'm going to do that. So basically what I did was I turned that into that. So I've got two. They're different. They did come out different sizes. I have no guilt. I have no shame. I'm not selling these. So I don't have to worry about that. These were just for my own enjoyment. If I were selling these, if I were doing these to sell or to give away as gifts, I would be more careful about how I cut it. I'd be more careful about how I measured it all up. I'd be more careful about, I'd just in general be more careful. These started off, look, they fit. I think this one turned out a little bit bigger. Yeah, this one's definitely a little bigger. And that's fine. So if I were doing these to sell, I don't think I would do much different. I would just be a little bit more careful about to sell or to give away or as to friends or whatever. Then I would be a little bit more careful on my measurements. No problems there. I don't think there's anything that I would really change otherwise. But the entire purpose of this design for me is to use up leftover fabrics. So having them not be perfect is kind of perfect, which was the goal I was going for. So I think I'm very happy with what I've got done. I hope you guys are inspired to try something similar. And again, like when you look at this, when you're sitting there in your house looking at this going, oh my God, I got all this scrap. And then you do that. Like, look at that. It's just kind of cool. It's just little things. Like these are all fabrics that I've used in different projects for the shop, which is kind of nice. And now I got something cool to remember all that by. These are done. Thank you for hanging out with me. I am going to go put these over where I can actually remember to use them now. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.